at our next webinar. Today we are hosting a guest under the topic of the artificial intelligence and business intelligence in the revenue management. Today our guest speaker is Professor Sanjay. Professor Sanjay is a Director of Innovation and Research at the Emirates Academy of Hospitality Management in Dubai. And here you can find a little bit information about the professor with his skills and ability and main focuses and developments in his career. I am thanking everyone for joining us today, and we are going to see already a few more people who are joining. Kindly to put your mics on mute in order to have a clear discussion between me and Professor. You can keep your video cameras on, which is totally fine. Few introduction. We are going to have 5 key questions at the moment, and after completion of the after completion of our Q&As, we're going to take the questions from the participants. So kindly be active on the chat box. You can put your questions as well. With the further note, we are going to start. Good evening, Professor Sanjay. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Thanks for having me on this forum. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. We are going to have a few questions which already had been given, and we are going to talk about it. So please feel free to give a short answer or the wide answer, whichever you would like.
Sure.
We will go to our first question. Yeah. So our first question will be, how do you see the future of the revenue management in the context of the AI, means artificial intelligence, and the machine learning in general?
Well, that is the future in short. But if you want me to elaborate a bit more.
How do you see it?
Well, what is happening is as machine learning, we'll come to the semantics later, because we of course have to make that small distinction between machine learning and artificial intelligence. Machine learning is actually a part of the artificial intelligence family. But there is a lot of automation that is taking place, and this is being facilitated by the huge glut of data that we are seeing. So because there's more and more data that is being produced, this is kind of the fuel for artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is nothing new. It's been around since the 50s, right? It's just that now it's come of age because it thrives on data. And because of the advances in digital technologies, we have such a lot of data now available that artificial intelligence is now actually beginning to make sense. So coming back to your question on revenue management specifically, with a lot of this automation happening, routine tasks, okay, routine tasks are now no more in need of human intervention. These can be automated. And we are so business intelligence and artificial intelligence, there's a subtle difference, and we'll come to that in a moment. But because of the flux of data, artificial intelligence algorithms are getting more and more accurate. They're mimicking the way people think. We still haven't reached that point. It's called the Turing test, by the way, where machines actually begin to have the cognitive capabilities of humans. But a lot of the routine tasks, which revenue management has a lot of in terms of computations, calculations, optimizations, these are now being automated. So that is the future moving ahead.
I agree totally with you, Professor. There are the big gap at the moment, and I do believe that there is a lot of improvement in the revenue management in general in the future, and we are going to have a little bit discussion about that in the other questions. So our second question will be, today artificial intelligence is well established in rooms revenue management. However, other areas like F&B revenue management is way behind. What should be done in to artificial intelligence or business intelligence in F&B revenue management?
Okay, let's first put the terms into context. So business intelligence is typically when we monitor the overall enterprise performance through data-driven insights. Whereas artificial intelligence, on the other hand, is where machines are emulating the human brain to build a digital mannequin of intelligence, right? So when it comes to taking a snapshot of your business based on historical data, that is BI. Looking at predictive analytics or prescriptive analytics, which is a step ahead of predictive, that's when we have AI/machine learning come into play. Now, coming to food and beverage, actually there is quite a bit of traction which is happening. For example, there are tools available, and these are fairly mature startups. These are not even, how do you say, early stage technologies, which have deployed cameras to detect food wastage and accordingly recommend the portion size to reduce the wastage. So this is guest facing. At the back end, you have inventory management, which is again technically part of revenue management, where you have these same algorithms looking at demand, not just based on historical data, but taking into account current factors such as maybe the weather, special events, occasions, to provide optimal, just-in-time, what do you call, supplies. Okay, so this has a great impact on overall revenue management, where the focus is not just on maximizing revenue from rooms, but the overall guest spend.
I agree with you. There are we are right now we are very well been established in the room revenue in terms of the data and using the data and turn it into the different algorithms, whether in the reporting. However, in F&B, we are way behind, and it will take a little bit time, and definitely there is a way in improvement in the F&B revenue management. At the moment, it's very well established, the menu engineering, which is quite successful. However, it doesn't give the overall insights, and I know that majority of the hotels are not using this data because of the way of the nature of the hotel, guest, and the other sentiments as well. Definitely there is a way of improvement, but the way how I see it, Professor, is that first BI have to be improved in the F&B revenue management, so the AI will be improved in the future.
Yeah, you're spot on, because this is a sort of a perpetual problem that many hoteliers face. There is data, there's lots of data, but it's all siloed, right? So marketing data will sit separately from revenue data, which will sit separately from operations data. So unless there is this full effort to have a data lake, it's not going to be possible to have a 360 view of the business. And this is again BI. So till this is sorted out, there's no question of even moving into the AI/machine learning environment. So I mean, just before the seminar started, we were having this discussion about the requirements for how to have a data cleaning, which is, it's like someone who likes cooking but not cleaning up the dishes after that. That's the analogy, right? So in this case, you want to kind of have the algorithms work for you, but about 70 to 80% of the effort goes into ensuring that you have good quality data. and from all aspects of your business. So this is the biggest task, the data acquisition process.
Yes. Just a little bit more information for those who don't know about the data lake. Data lake is basically an information where everything is collected and everything is coming input in data. So that's how it's the formulate the data lake. Typically, any report or the data that comes from the micros or any other software is potentially your data. This data you can able to see how the guest is by the nature of the guest, nationality, what they order, when they order, how much they do spend. Is this a typical? Is it normal? Not normal? If there's any differentiation with it, and etc. So more this data comes into the one specific location as a lake, you can able to play around and you can see the achievement, like a 50% of your achievement, which you have the information itself. Rest 50% you can able to see how you can change or play around. So data is not everything. Data is half of the way. Data can give you your answers. However, your 50% have to be a right answer, right questions to get the right answers. As Jehonan explained in our previous webinar, garbage in, garbage out theory, which is the you have to give the correct question to get the correct answer. So we're going to the third question, Professor. It's about the how artificial intelligence capturing more and more area in the room management, especially in the yield management. Do you think the hotel will no longer need the revenue leaders, revenue managers, or director in the future?
Well, the hotel will always need revenue leaders, except that their skill sets will have to be different from what is conventionally accepted now. Because we are still far away from artificial intelligence actually replacing humans, to the extent that, as I mentioned before, the Turing test is still far away. Turing test, by the way, I think I mentioned a while ago, is the Rubicon. If the AI algorithm is able to crack the Turing's test, that means it has achieved human level intelligence and cognition. And as far as we are aware, we're still pretty much far away from that. So revenue managers will definitely be required, but their role will change. They have to think more strategically. They'll have to upskill themselves in terms of what algorithms have to be deployed, because as juniors, they won't have revenue clerks and assistants reporting to them. They will have algorithms reporting to them. So their co-workers will be bots and algorithms. So this is the new reality. And hence, moving forward, a typical revenue career track, which used to exist in the, or probably still exists in this industry, that is set to disappear. I think you're muted, Nisha.
Sorry. How long do you think it will take the complete transformation of the revenue management into the automation?
This is a, if I had a crystal ball, I would have been able to answer that question. But that said, the digital transformation, which was inevitable, has now become imminent because of this health emergency. So there's a lot of acceleration happening, and because of which, either looking at it as a cost-cutting mechanism, efficiency perspective, either which way you look at it, it's a no-brainer now. And this has shaken up the industry into looking at what other sectors have done. For example, fintech, that's a great example to look at, banking to some extent, and take the best practices that they have deployed into the hospitality realm. So if we would have looked at a 4 to 5 year horizon conservatively, probably that's been advanced way quicker. So it's all up in the air at the moment, but it's going to happen soon, very soon. It's imminent. It's not just inevitable.
It's a little bit sad to say also from our perspective that banking system, banking industry are much ahead in this scenario rather than the hospitality, because they are using by all means the understanding of the guest, knowing what to provide, knowing how to transform it into the uh, digital. As you know, today, because of the COVID-19 situation, majority of the banks was working the online banking and from the application itself. And I would say that except one or two services in the teller, which need the cash, rest was completely had been digitalized. And having said that, it didn't take more time, or it didn't take more effort, because it was going into this direction, and they were even forcing their customers to go and do the transactions via the application. So I do see that the banking system are a way ahead rather than the hospitality. Is there any dilemma in this? Do you see any um, uh, the gaps in here?
Well, it's not a dilemma as such, but that's the reality of this industry, isn't it? Because what you have to take into consideration is banking in practically all countries is a heavily regulated sector, given the financial implications. And it's not as fragmented as hospitality is. So therefore, in terms of scalability, banks have always had a clearer advantage. Also, whether that has been the driver or just because these are people who are working in the service industry from a finance perspective, they took the leap before hospitality. That question is debatable. Hospitality is also service, but the difference being, for example, if you want to measure churn in banking, uh, if you if you want to measure churn in banking, all you need to find out is whether the person has the account with the bank, yes or no, simple binary. Whereas, as far as hotels are concerned, how do you know whether your loyal guest has churned or not? Because he or she hasn't shown up for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 year. So there's no clear-cut way of determining, right? So hospitality has its own challenges. So even though it's still part of the service sector, like telecom or banking, the backbone of banking and telecom has always been technology heavy. Whereas in hospitality, we are still using technologies that were developed in the 60s and 70s, the GDSs. And I mean, these are, I mean, of course, there is a layer of modernity on top of that, but the core technologies are still ancient, whereas banks have moved on. You look at adoption of blockchain, for instance, right? I mean, again, this is going to pose an existential threat to the banks if at all it becomes mainstream, right? So, I mean, today's predators are tomorrow's victims. That's we've seen this happening in the case of travel agencies, OTAs. Now OTAs are under threat because Google is kind of trying. So that game will always play. So the one-upmanship in the technology game is pretty important. Even for small hoteliers, now there are so many agile technology tools available, right? We're looking at democratization of data science, where you don't really need to be a hardcore data scientist to be able to deploy these solutions. There are off-the-shelf solutions, plug-and-play solutions, but we are still fixated in the property management system, legacy tools, which were created in the 70s, 80s, and have hardly gone any modernization apart from the user interface.
But then Professor, it just brings me to another question actually that you emphasize. Is it something to do with the revenue leaders who are not actually advancing in their skills and putting themselves at the challenging, let's say, goals to learn more on the data science, let's say the programming and the, let's say, environments where they can test some of the models and try to take this industry to the next level, like the finance, like the banking sector?
You have set a cat among pigeons. Yeah. Yes. Okay. This is a very tradition-bound industry, and people are happy to be in their comfort zones.
Yeah.
I don't want to name the hotel chain, but I was once invited to speak to the head of revenue and assets of the hotel group. Not Jumeirah, by the way, let me clarify that once, because Emirates Academy, where I work, we are part of Jumeirah. And during the conversation, when I posed the question, so how do you all decide your rates? Because the general murmur was, oh, OTAs are looting us and they are sort of, taking advantage of us. So it was a simple question, and this story is about about 5 years old, right? So how do you all decide on your rates? Or we have a morning XCOM during which we decide based on our gut feeling. So I just made a light comment, what if your guts are not doing particularly well? And they were not happy with that. So oh, we have 25, 30, 40 years of experience. We know what we are doing, sort of a thing, right? So it's that mindset. Now look at OTAs, online travel agencies. What are they? They're just data companies. That's it.
Yeah.
So they are just leverage data and deploy dynamic pricing algorithms, whereas hoteliers are still, relying on their gut feelings
Yes.
to set rates. So come on, I mean, why? There is no question of any unfair play. So yes, you're absolutely spot on there. There is quite a bit of resistance about upskilling themselves because they feel, oh, we've had decades of experience and past is the indicator of future. And this is where things are going horribly wrong for the industry, because in the past, things didn't change that quickly. Now the pace of change is so quick, past experience does not really have a big impact on your ability to determine the future.
Yeah, but Professor,
this is where big data comes in.
Yeah, the very much good point that you emphasized regarding the systems that the big chains actually working. Specifically, some of them still they are using, for example, if you see the system and you dive in and you have a chance, some of them to investigate, to understand how it is working. Some of their pricing even is not looking for your forecast. They are looking for the average of what the competition is selling. It is not looking for your forecast. What is your forecast right now? So they can take the, let's say, the ratio of the average comp set price and the average what you are doing in terms of your pricing. So this kind of small stuff that actually came in 2010 and they started to understand, some big chains came in and they thought, okay, we are always looking for the pricing. Competition might change their rate high, but your hotel at the end of the day will be empty.
Competition is selling.
Sorry,
yeah. So basically, as I told, for some of the chains still they do have a very sophisticated systems, but they don't have the people who understand how to use them. Most of them they know how to use the buttons. Let's say publish, looking for the bar rate, changing the, but they don't understand the mindset how this data is coming from, so they can assess. Some of them they don't understand, for example, unconstrained demand. When you ask them what's unconstrained demand, they just start with the basic definition, but they don't understand how it comes in the back. So you can assess if the system is doing correct or not. Maybe someone from the reception, they have entered something wrong in the data, which is not actually, shouldn't be in the same market segment that supposed to be. So which actually directs you to the different way of pricing for each segment. So as you mentioned, this is one of the let's say gaps for the revenue leaders I see, and I challenge myself as well as being the director of revenue. I'm saying, okay, we are at this level, but there is a digital transformation, and this pandemic it is increasing more, and you need to upskill your skills. So you need to take more advantage of the IT and all this programming language to understand better of what you can do. There is a lot of tools, as we talked before. There are a lot of tools there which you can just try and find out new solutions for the best actions. Let's say.
I do believe.
No, absolutely. And in fact, coming to your point, we have reached a stage where you don't even need to take a deep dive into coding. Of course, if you know coding, that's excellent, but you can even get by now without coding. I'll give you an example. Let's say about 10 years ago, to develop a website, you had to have knowledge of HTML, right? Today, you have easy to use ready-made templates where, I mean, my 11-year-old daughter can build a website in minutes,
Yeah.
right? So we are seeing a similar pattern come out in a data analytics side as well. So there are tools available now which have a graphical user interface that help you all to go through the entire process of training a model, running a model, testing a model, and then actually deploying a model at scale, right? So without having to write a single code. Of course, if you know coding, that works to your advantage entirely, because you can then manipulate as and how you require it. But other than that, for self-service analytics, it's already, we are seeing a massive democratization of data science. Citizen data scientists, as we call ourselves now.
Yeah.
I think majority of the revenue managers, director, they know that in the future, things will be different, and either they don't want to do because of that and take it more passive role. Well, less of them are looking opportunities and trying to improve their skills, but I believe that for them it's a threat, and that's why they are more into the traditional way more rather than the more agile, using more agile techs. Right?
Yeah, and see, there's the other thing, right? It's also pretty much hierarchical industry, right? So typically to reach that level, people are expected in many cases to work through the ladder. Now, if you talk to youngsters who are getting into the industry, they don't have the patience to wait for 15, 20, 25 years to reach that level of decision making. They want it here and now. So we're already seeing that mismatch coming up, not just in terms of the skills requirements, but also the expectations from the future generation of hotel leaders. And this is what, you know, when someone talks about a career in revenue management, that's what I point to them, that listen, don't expect to go down that traditional path, because that path doesn't exist anymore. I mean, if you're going to start with doing routine work, you're not required. That's it. So if you come from a data science side now, again, that's the other question, right? Oh, you may be a great data scientist, but if you don't have any domain knowledge, you're equally useless.
That's correct.
So you need to have that right set of skills of technical skills, awareness, and domain knowledge. And I think among the three, domain knowledge is by far the most important.
Well, that's one of the issues right now. We see it in the industry, Professor, that people think that by knowing the reservation system and knowing some couple of tools in the revenue management makes you qualified. However, they are far behind than the reality. The revenue management, it's not about taking the data and put the rates and here you go, you can able to sell, whether it's the high rate or the low rate. There is actually more research and the strong ability, strong foundation skills you needed for that. And even today, those skills are becoming old. I mean, if I may speak about the 5 years ago or 8 years ago, the skill set that revenue managers had, right now it's completely different. So a person respectively have to develop himself or herself looking for the new agile technologies today. I mean, just to take a Google just itself, the way how they are monopolizing the overall the system is the big science. It's another probably 4 years BA probably you need to study for that. But unfortunately, yes, I agree with you, Professor, that if there will be a room or there will be I would say another model, another course that would be able in the future to create it for those revenue managers, those revenue directors that would be able to enhance their skills and bring the new mindset, commercial mindset. I mean, ability to not just to put the data from here to here and here you go, with the sentiments of the hotel sentiments general, they'll be able to see the massive growth in this. And unfortunately, not all the chains right now, they are using it, unfortunately.
That is a fact, because again, as we discussed this point before, for most hotels, the data sit in silos. So from a revenue manager's perspective, They're only concerned with the revenue data,
Mm.
right? So that mindset itself needs to change. So instead of looking at the business as a data centric with all other units feeding into it, like revenue, operations, marketing, and sales, so everything centers around the data spectrum. Until this appreciation grows among industry leaders, and this has to start right from the top, and the buy-in has to be right down the value chain. Till then, it's going to be a very difficult task, because if revenue managers continue to insist on trusting their gut feelings, and as you said, just plug in some data into a system, and that's also a big point out there, because these legacy systems, you don't know what's inside the hood. It's a black box. So you just have to blindly trust whatever they're providing you with.
Yeah.
There is no ability, or there is no capacity to challenge the accuracy of those algorithms. And they're not machine learning by any close call. These are BI tools. That's what they are.
Yeah.
They give you the sense of business, how it is here and now. They don't have predictive capabilities. You look at how hotels do their forecast. They still do annual forecasts. Why? Things change so quickly. Annual budgets, why? Why are these outdated modes, which were based on data availability decades ago, are they being still used? So the SOPs have to change, the
Yeah.
mindset has to change, and the education has to change.
Professor, another question actually, and most of the time, even in the big chains as well, I will not name the names, but the people in the corporate office who are not even not in the corporate, so in the head office, let's say, who are dealing actually with the director, with the putting the system and the algorithms in place, they don't explain in full to all leaders, or they don't just have a training or any kind of training putting in the lights of how these numbers are working. They just give you the basic understanding what you need to push, what you need to do in this button. You just need to look for the specific set of rules, but they don't explain anything at all. And from this point, as well, I would like to jump to another question, which is you mentioned as well about education. How many universities right now in their revenue management courses, they do have the machine learning and the data science, they are giving this correlation? I didn't see, for example, I have graduated from Lyon Higher Education from Switzerland. We didn't have this in the Lyon curriculum as a revenue management, part of the hotel revenue management. We just had the basic BI, intelligence reports, how it is working. So you need to go and just investigate and find out how it is working, what is the mindset in the back. But there is no specific rules, as you told, SOPs or any kind of curriculum that can explain future generations who are going to be taking the lead of this hospitality industry to the next level, so they can understand how these systems are working.
Okay, you touched on a very sensitive, you mentioned Lyon. In fact, coming Wednesday, I'm speaking to students from Lyon and Les Roches, because they're both owned by the same entity, exactly on this issue about artificial intelligence coming into different subject areas. And because this is patently lacking, they don't have it. That's why they're asking to speak on it. And not just them.
All of them, most of them.
No, name me one university, at least I'm not aware. I mean, I have professor friends who are working in different universities. We often exchange notes and talk. Not just in revenue management, but in any other subject, there is no introduction to what I would call industry 4.0 tools,
Yeah.
right? At a basic level.
Yeah.
Even at a basic level, right? So, and these are the disruptors of this industry. And that's the strangest thing. So we are preparing a workforce which is completely ill-equipped to deal with the upcoming uncertainties. And this is not what's happening in the future. It's already happening. Automation through robotics. And now, particularly because of this health crisis, we are going to look at high-tech, no touch. So robotics, IoT, yeah, or machine learning. These are going to be the drivers. And students are not even being given the bare minimum exposure to these tools, which is a shame on the education system.
Yes, agree.
And I say this, I mean, I'm from the education ecosystem, and I know how dreadful this is, but I just feel we are failing our students. We're setting them up for failure.
Yeah.
Why are they spending 3-4 years doing a bachelor's degree? Most of the stuff that they learn is useless.
Yeah.
All of it is going to be automated in no time, and that's it. But again, the same story, right? I mean, the mindset. Oh
Yeah.
no, we've been doing this for several years. This is the curriculum. We are bound to it. For years, I'm teaching the same thing. Let me carry on. Why should I bother changing?
Yeah.
That is a sad reality.
As well as in
And
the
then-
MBA degree, professor, even in the MBA degree, I have graduated from MBA degree, we didn't have anything. I know that I cannot go to my country, which is I'm from Azerbaijan. I cannot go and tell my university back in my country, which is a third, let's say, developing country, just started to ramp up in the economy. I cannot go and tell them that you are lacking in terms of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and this diploma. While the most top universities in hospitality industry, which is the billion and all the names I can count countless, and they are not at that level in their curriculum.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. But actually, I'll tell you what, you can work this to the advantage of Azerbaijan's education ecosystem. This is what we would call leapfrogging.
Yeah.
So because they're starting from scratch, let them start with this.
Yeah.
You don't have to follow the so-called leaders, because the leaders, it's just because of their name and reputation. They've been around for a century or so. That's about it.
That's the purpose of our group created, Professor, that we would love to give the latest news of the hospitality inside, while it will take a time someone to make a research, then to prove it, then to bring it into the education, then put it into the papers, into the students. Already it will take a few years, and then we'll reach that after a few years, we're in a different stage. So this is the gap. I cannot say it's the time is the gap. I could say that the best practices are not have been well educated, or there are the channels to be educated it quicker. In order we'll adapt it quicker. That's the advantage part of the bank sector, what I see right now, that they are doing it quicker as soon as possible. More rather than hospitality takes the time.
Correct, because banking, first of all, it's not as fragmented. That's number one. Number two, there is also regulatory requirement in many instances for banking compliance, which hotels don't have to that extent, right? Like financial reporting standards, maintaining a credit reserve ratio with the central bank. So all this requires massive amount of digitization. So therefore, there is already that kind of an environment which is available for the banking system to ensure rapid digitalization. Whereas for hospitality, the mindset has been it's nice to have, but not need to have. So that is the difference. Whereas for banking, it's a need. It's not just nice to have. They need to have it. If online banking services are not offered by a bank, the customers will go to a competitor who's offering. Simple as that.
Okay.
Whereas for hotels, all are in the same pool, so it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah,
that's good. I'll go for the next question, Professor. It was very nice to talk about conversation. Sorry. So we're talking about the revenue management had been moved from the demand management to demand generation spectrum and other commercial areas. Nowadays, the revenue leaders are making very commercial decisions, which doesn't fit the position as the traditional revenue manager or revenue director. With the new trend of the revenue management, what will be the possible name for this position, commercial manager or something else? We're looking not just to changing the name, we're also looking to changing the skills, mindset, and the others. how you can comment on that.
So it's an interesting point you brought up here, because again, this brings us to the earlier discussion about the silos, revenue, marketing, and it's all centered around data. I still have to come across any major hotel chain that's appointed a chief data officer, right? So if you have, instead of having a CIO, if you have a CID or CD, just a CDO, because information technology is just a carrier for data. That's it. You cannot expect IT people to be data sort of data mature, right?
Right.
So approaching it from a data centric perspective, and then having the next rank of officers focusing on revenue, marketing, that is something I see happening sooner than later, right? Because at the end of the day, data is the new oil. What oil was yesterday, data is today. So the asset that data is, this recognition is now increasingly dawning even among hoteliers. So if you have a CDO, and then you can have a data officer, revenue data officer, marketing, those roles. So the word data is strongly entrenched in any designation. That shows the importance of data. Because remember, the data is not just revenue data, it's not just marketing data, it's not just social media review data, guest review data, it's not just operations data. There's much more to it than that. You see, there's a lot of automation happening on properties. So IoT, Internet of Things, is gaining a lot of traction. And these are sensors. These sensors generate even more data. What are you going to do with all this? Are you going to let it go waste? This is an asset. How are you able to leverage it? How can you map IoT data with your revenue data? Do you see any patterns? Do you see any correlations? This is something that hoteliers should look forward to. Because not only does it enhance guest experience, with all due respect to GDPR and other privacy related issues, it also improves operational efficiencies, cuts down wastage. So even on the, it saves you on the bottom line. So it's optimizing both your bottom line and your top line. So short answer to your question, the word data should figure in any designation which is of importance. Whether it's chief data officer revenue, data officer revenue, those are details that can be worked
I agree. We'll go to our last question, and after that we'll be taking the questions from our participants. Please feel free to write your questions in the chat box. So the last question: do you think the business intelligence specifically works with the historical data that will be also handled by the machine learning? Meaning also handled by the machine learning. Machine learning, meaning instead of looking for a recommendation through the data mining, system will recommend us what is possibly we could do an action.
Yeah, so that is exactly the power of predictive analytics, isn't it? I mean, machine learning takes us one level above what traditional BI can provide for giving predictive analytics, and going a stage beyond that, and that's when we move into the domain of deep learning, which is again part of the AI family. So okay, just to demystify the jargon, you have artificial intelligence as the overarching domain, within which you have machine learning, and then within that you have deep learning, right? So as deep learning technologies get more pervasive in the hotel industry, that's when you can even go beyond predictive into prescriptive. So not only is it going to predict with reasonable level of accuracy, it is going to prescribe action based on different scenarios, recommendations, right? So this is not so far away and it's not that far-fetched. So BI, yes, BI is good for checking the state of the health of the business here and now. Moving forward, what actions need to be taken, what can be predicted, that's machine learning. And then prescription coming in from machines, that's when we go into the deep learning.
We had seen a few examples. For example, I know not the best, but at least something to start off. For example, Alexa today, that or products that similar like Alexa, let's say, that is available or will be available in the future. We'll say, for example, when you will get inside the room, they will be able to sense that you're in stress or you are too much in the work, intense. So they will say that, oh, by the way, you're feeling so stressed out. I have a perfect vacation for you planned, not far away from here, this much cost. Would you be interested? So this will be a next level of how should I say, recommendation through the machines by analyzing us as a human and giving us the right information through that. Some people are feeling it's a little bit scary. So some people see there's the privacy issues available. We spoke about it before in the class, but I do believe that this is a future that cannot be avoided. It yes, in the end of the day, human will be making a choice whether to do or not to do. However, this will be an option, and it's not the purpose of the selling or recommending. So once the machine will say it to us, it will be in our head. So we'll think about it, whether should we do it now or later on. Maybe it's a good idea, or even not the travel, maybe a good massage, for example, next door, not too far, 200 meters, something like that. So I do expect that there will be a lot of recommendations through it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't necessarily have to come from hotel technologies, because your own mobile device is already capable of doing that, right? Because who knows you better than your mobile device? I mean, I joke with my wife that my mobile knows me better than she does because it has all the data on me. Google knows my whereabouts better than my wife does. So from that aspect, what are my preferences? What do I search for? What are the type of places I like to visit? So is it a coffee shop? Is it an Italian bistro or an Indian takeaway joint? The system knows my preferences. So when I travel to a different place, right, based on my pattern, it's able to already recommend. And the phone is always with me, right? As long as I have data, that's it. It can say, okay, 200 meters away, there is an Indian takeaway, if just FYI kind of a thing. Would you like to go for it's meal time for you? Something like that, right? So even hotels don't even need to invest in that. So it's already there. And that way I'll be more reassured that it's my mobile, either on Android or an iPhone, doesn't matter. My own mobile is making this recommendation, not the hotel's device, because I expect my mobile to know about me, and I'll be a little bit concerned if the hotel system knows so much about me, right? But again, that's a psychological divide, and as you said, eventually we'll overcome that one way or the other. In fact, I'll expect the hotel to know what my preferences are at some stage. It's already happening. And I'll give you an example. Sorry?
You brought it up a fun story that I was having a lately conversation with my mother, saying that, look, I mean, this type of BOs and the text is studying us is available even now. So she was saying, no, it's not available. I said, just open your phone. Locations are open. She opened it. She saw all the applications, locations are open. They know where you are, and even can send you a message that I'm nearby, even if you pass by the restaurant. So she switched it off. I said, it doesn't matter, your mic is on. So if you will say KFC, 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 KFC 5 times at least, you will see the promotion. The KFC will pop out to you. Means they are listening to you also and giving what you want. It's not just you're running away. How come it's the privacy issue? I said, it's not a privacy issue. It's more about phone is studying you, knowing what you're clicking, what you're watching, what you're talking. So basically, things which we call it's free charge, like a social media, it's not actually free. It's a data and it's studying us. And based on that, they're making a new strategy, marketing strategies. So it took a while to explain it. So I do believe that this trend have to go on in the hotel section as well in the future.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you recollect in one of my digital strategy classes, I'd shown this slide. So it went something like this. If you're not paying for it, social media, right? You're not the customer, you are the product.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So that's what we have to keep in mind. All right. We are selling ourselves in terms of our data to get something in return, which is the convenience.
Yes.
And I learned this lesson in 2013 when I was a visiting professor at École Hôtelière de Lausanne in Switzerland.
Yeah.
I was supposed to fly out the following day, and I got a message on my Gmail or on my Google. Google Assistant was very newly launched. I got a message on my Google Assistant saying that the flight has been delayed by 12 hours. So the irony was this happened when I was in class during the break. When I checked my message, I sort of panicked, right? And this was a class on digital strategy. And the students asked me, the MBA students, why, is everything okay? I said, yeah, you know what? I just got this message, but I don't know how Google knows that I'm supposed to fly out tomorrow.
Yeah.
It wrecked the hell out of me. On one hand, I was very worried. How did Google know that I have a flight tomorrow? Of course, I was also relieved that I was informed that my flight is 12 hours late. So I was kind of having that mental struggle. The rest of the class, I was very upset, nervous, couldn't be, and then when I went back to my hotel room, I just checked. There was an e-ticket copy in PDF on my Gmail. That's how Google knew. And Google Assistant was new then. 2013, this was huge. Now we take it for granted. If I don't get a reminder, I get worried now.
Yeah.
So coming back to what you mentioned, Nijat, yeah, that's the way forward. Eventually people will get sensitized. They'll get used to the conveniences.
Yeah, I have read the topic about the free Wi-Fi, telling that it is not free. Actually, if you are connected, it's actually you are a product. It's coming to you.
The product.
Yeah, they are using you. If it is free, it is they are using you as well.
Yeah, they're monetizing us.
Yeah, definitely. Professor, I have a question regarding the education system. Actually, what do you think that we as the hospitality leaders needs to be doing in terms of the let's say bringing that mindset to the education system in terms of the digital transformation, working with how to work with the AI and the artificial intelligence and the deep learning, what into going to the into deep as well, the deep learning as well, because I think that this is a very good time for the educational institutions to move forward and they use these kind of people who are actually good in the IT, because we don't have currently in the market people who are actually good in the data science as well as the artificial intelligence, but at the same time good at the hospitality industry. There are few, but not a lot of people actually there. What needs to be done in terms of the curriculum of the educational systems, in terms of the high level of the educational systems to be changed to bring that mindset to the students so they can just try to be in line what's going on in the current digital transformation?
See, the pressure has to come from the industry for the education sector to respond, right? Because I've not seen any other sector where the education system is so disconnected from the industry.
Yes.
You look at engineering, you look at pharmaceuticals, you look at you name any industry, finance, whatever. There's a strong link where the education system prepares the students to work in that industry.
Yeah.
Hospitality, travel, tourism, unfortunately, is the only sector I've seen where the gap is so huge that whatever students are taught, most of it is useless.
Agree.
It's a sad reflection.
I agree.
Right? Because all along the focus is on academic rigor. Why? Okay, unless you want to follow an academic career path, you want to do your PhD and teach, that's one thing. In this industry, things change fast, and now it's even faster. So therefore, the agility is not there in the curriculum. So we are not teaching students what is coming next. We are teaching them how it was in the past.
Yeah.
And the past is no more an indicator of the future. I mean, we always have these arguments. I mean, even with my academic peers about, you know, academic rigor versus practical applications. And I've always batted for practical applications because you take it to the industry and use them. If you wanted to be get into academic rigor, you would have chosen a different program for a PhD path, not this. So I think the pressure should really come from the industry to universities saying, listen, please ensure that your graduates are capable or at least aware of these tools. Because
Professor, also
yeah.
we have to agree on the one small thing that, for example, in my experience in the Emirates Academy right now, which was related with your class, the digital marketing. In this digital marketing, what I loved the most that we were talking about something that is going on right now, and the thing was very important for me to understand what is going on right now, not 5 years ago, not 10 years ago. And I'm very sorry, I don't care who said, when said, and what was his theory about. What I do care that it's something is practical today. Today is something that I will take this knowledge and I will go use it in the in my skill set in my workplace. That's why I enjoyed it in the class of the digital marketing, where there was a lot of experts from the Facebook, YouTube, Amazon. There was Google Digital Garage as a course that we gone through it, and it's completely free. I try to share with all my connectors that Google to Digital Garage is totally free and totally useful, and you could able to learn much more and enhance your skills. I do believe that this electronic e-learning, I do hope that will be switched on very quickly and will be something agile nowadays, that pretty much proving the point that you don't need to build academy to give the education. You could do it in the platforms, and you could able to do it up to the date knowledge and skills.
Yeah, I mean, I would completely discount the role of an academic institution, because what happens is, I think the role of the institution should be more in terms of mentoring into a career path, not teaching, right? Because at the end of the day, there's so much available about so many things, you can get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Right? So therefore, the ability to curate a learning path, okay, your goal, and we can individualize this. Let's say you want to specialize in revenue. You just come freshly out of school. You're starting a bachelor's program. You want to make a career in revenue. All right. I, as your professor, mentor, whatever, will create an individual path specifically for you and other people who are into this revenue related stuff, where I can pick out stuff from Google, maybe from Amazon, maybe from Coursera, all these other MOOCs. And listen, here is a suite of tools, and this will not only help you to stay updated, as in how the technology is advanced, you then know where to go to upskill yourself even after you've graduated.
Yeah.
So that is the value. It's not so much about teaching you topics, but teaching you how to stay updated. That is more important.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, if you have to go to refresh your digital garage skills, you can go to that course which would have been refreshed by Google anyway. So you know where to go now. You know the source. It's not, oh, I did my MBA 5 years back, what was taught then is useless. No, but I know the source where I can go and update what I did.
Right.
So
Correct.
that is the role academic institutions have to play as facilitators, not as teachers.
Yeah, like a mind shift.
Exactly.
Mind shift. Yeah, people in the specifically in the students going to the high universities, they're thinking that my dad and my parents, they pay this much money, so teachers are they supposed to give me the education, but they don't understand that this paradigm shift in their head should be done prior when they go to the bachelor's degree, even from early ages. You need to teach your kids as well to be looking for something, not just waiting for something. So
And that you're right, and that applies even to the assessment systems, right? We are still giving students exams where they have to prepare, commit to memory, vomit that knowledge in the exam, and then forget it.
yes,
Why? It's completely nonsensical. The critical ability is how to put everything together, and the amount of information is so huge now.
yeah,
You cannot do it in a 2 or a 3 hour exam. It's not possible.
agree.
Totally
But
agree.
we are still stuck in that.
Totally
So
agree.
therefore, the education system is also equally to blame. You can't just blame the industry. So it's a catch-22 situation. And until the industry puts pressure on the education system that, listen, we want your graduates to have these skill sets for us to hire them, for us to make them employable, particularly now in the post-COVID scenario. And
Yeah.
this is a good opportunity to to disrupt a sector which is ripe for disruption.
Agree. Our Q&A with you, Professor, is over, so we'll take some few questions from the participants if it's available. So if you had kept your questions in the chat box, or if you like to just switch on the mic and talk, please let me know.
Yeah, Nijat, there is one question actually that was sent by Amit Rao Singh. So, Professor, most of the interviews that I have taken in the recent years, mostly in part of my country, I have been asking the students as to why did they choose the hotel management. Mostly the answers have been because it was easier than BTech studies, technical studies, meaningly. So, do we really think that learning the concept of machine learning and AI would be easy to cope? It's very right question, actually. That's what we have covered somehow.
It's so yes, I agree with you, and it's also it's a catch-22 situation.
Yeah.
If you have students coming into this profession not because they have the passion, but because they don't feel anything else is they're capable of doing those subjects, it's something not good for the industry to begin with, because this industry is about attitude as much as it is about intelligence, right? So because the perception people have is, oh, what am I going to learn in hotel management? How to cook and how to serve guests. That is the perception. So till that is kind of shaken up, right? Till people look at it as a career of choice, not because they are not fit for anything else, or this is the only thing that I'm capable of because it's so easy, right? That has to go. And this will happen because moving ahead, the manual jobs, even the relatively low skill jobs, are going to get automated. They're already becoming automated.
Yeah.
So therefore, there is no such thing left in hotel management or a hotel career where you start off as a bellboy and work your way up to becoming the general manager. Those days are gone.
Okay.
Starwood was probably the first major hotel chain before they were acquired by Marriott to appoint Steve Passion, forget his first, I think it's Steve, yeah, Passion, as a CEO. He was the first CEO to be appointed who came from outside the industry. No hospitality experience, no hospitality degree, right? And this was about 6 or 7 years ago. he was the last CEO after which then they were acquired by Marriott. So coming back to your point, yes, it's a difficult sell, but if the perception of the industry is changed, it's not for low-level skills, but it does require both emotional quotient, high EQ, and okay, you don't need to be an Einstein to be in this industry, but at least in terms of your EQ, your soft skills and your emotional quotient, you need to be on the tops, plus be able to deal with these type of trending technologies, not as a data scientist, but purely to be able to apply as a user of these technologies to run your hotel business or to run your role, whichever role you're in. So does that answer your question, Carl? I mean, does that sort of do justice to your question?
Yeah, I guess it's very much as you brought the topic back to again about how to the people perceive about the hotel management, and yeah, this is I think a very much good explanation. Apart from that, I don't have any questions so far. I think we just summarized most of the questions in the 5 major peak points, let's say. Also there is another comment. Also, I would like to recommend me some course on AI and machine learning. I'm presently working as a cluster director of revenue handling multiple hotels across the Asia Pacific. This is the same our guest, Amitral Singh. I guess then there are a lot of courses that me personally started to take from the Coursera as well, the understanding of the machine learning, understanding of the deployment of the specific modules. I think, Professor, you have maybe some suggestions as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would start off with, I would certainly start off with Coursera. I mean, if you want to really take your first baby steps without knowing any coding or anything, Google Cloud have quite a few good offerings on Coursera. One of my favorites is machine learning for business professionals.
Yeah.
Right. This is a very nice course that takes you step by step, introduces you to the vocabulary. So as a business user, at least you're aware of what is available to you. There are some hands-on labs as well where you can go through this. And okay, you can audit it without paying anything. There is also, again, I think I don't remember how much, but probably now they're offering it for free for a limited period because of COVID. I'm not sure. It's something like $50 US, where you can actually go through the course with support. And at the end of it, you complete a series of assessments, you get a certificate.
Yeah.
And you can build up on top of that. So after so that is one of the courses I would certainly recommend. Another course that comes to mind again from Google is business transformation with Google Cloud. Right, so that again brings like the cloud capabilities, because at the end of the day, machine learning, what are you going to do? Host it on run it on your computer, on your laptop? No, you're going to run it on the cloud. So Google has got a very robust ecosystem, Google Cloud, GCP, Google Cloud Platform. So that's one. If you want to kind of have a balance between Google, Microsoft, Amazon, there are similar courses offered by Microsoft and by Amazon. So you're familiar, you're then you're platform agnostic. So it doesn't matter whether it's Microsoft, Amazon, Google, they're pretty much the same. But it'll give you an idea how these platforms work, where to plug and play. So in your profession, you know exactly whom to talk to intelligently when you're talking about data science.
Yeah, I have put here as well which I am practicing as well, the crash course from the machine learning from the Google for developers as well. If you would like to just go in deep and understand how it is working in deep learning, I put in the chat as well, Amitral, and as well as from the business perspective, if you would like to just have an overview, there is for the business view as well for the machine learning. But if you would like to go in deep, there's a crash course from the Google, which I put the link so you can use that one. Apart from that, in Coursera specifically, there is the data science and machine learning courses from University of Michigan, as well as they do have the Python for the application of the machine learning in the specific environments where you can just have a try. And if you need more resources, you can get in touch with us. We do have a lot of resources where you can just grasp more on these topics.
Yeah, absolutely. And you again, you don't have to be so fussed about, oh, do I need to know coding? Will I have to learn coding? That's exactly the point I'm making. You can get by without coding. You can do some real cool stuff without coding. If you know coding, that's great. But if you feel, oh, I don't have time to get too deep into coding, fine, forget it. Get straight into self-service analytics, visual interfaces, and you're good to go.
Good, perfect. Thank you, Professor.
Professor, thank you very much for coming, joining. Nice questions, nice discussions. I hope it was very useful and beneficial. And later on, we're going to post it in our YouTube and in our Facebook, Instagram, and the LinkedIn pages for those who had missed it. And of course, I do believe that some of us will be able to use it for the reference purposes as well in the future. Our next webinar will be related hotel asset management. This is something related to my current role and the all the skills, knowledges, and the best practices that we will speak by the next week. So please be informed that this will be our next session. I am thankful for the professor for coming and thankful for all participants to joining to us. If you have any questions, comments, please like us, subscribe us. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Professor, very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye-bye and have a good evening.
Bye.
Have a good evening.